Hi everyone and welcome to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
So Mike, do you take a lot of photos with your phone, with your cameras, anything like that?
No.
No? Not really much of a photography person?
I photograph things so I don't forget them.
Addresses and useful bits of information.
Exactly, menus, and I send it to someone and say, what do you want me to order you? But no, I'm not a selfie guy, and I'm not much of an artistic photographer or anything like that, no.
I tended not to take as many photos before. My wife enjoys it. She takes a lot, which means I don't have to. Great.
That's true.
But since having children, I do tend to kind of, if they're doing something interesting or unusual, I'll just whip out the camera and take a quick video or a quick shot. So if you were to look through my phone, you'd find that for the last 3 years, it's almost all baby and children pictures.
Wonderful.
Yeah, before that, stuff of maybe being on a mountain in Hong Kong. So, I used to if I went to somewhere interesting, take a few photos just so I can look back, remember them, post them on Facebook. But that would only be with my phone. I've never owned a really fancy digital camera or anything like that. Just really no need to because I tend not to bother. But some people are really into taking photos, and some people really like taking photos what we might think of as the old-fashioned way, with cameras with film that I remember using when I was younger. But that seems to be coming back into fashion, and that's what this article is about. Let's check it out.
Reading. Film photography is back in fashion. Those of you who are into music are probably aware that vinyl records have made a big return in recent years. In fact, in 2021, more vinyl albums than CDs were sold in the US for the first time in 30 years. Many people feel the warm sound that vinyl produces is superior to the digital sound of CDs and MP3s. Another old technology that has been making a return is film photography. And again, it's the analog warmth that's part of the reason. In film photography, a film roll of usually 24 or 36 exposures is loaded into the camera. Once the roll is finished, it must be processed to see the images. Traditionally, images were printed, but these days they can be made into a convenient digital file. Film photos have a unique style that can't easily be copied with digital technology. Whenever a photographer chooses a different film type, the photos will look different. There are digital filters that try to copy the film look, but these are usually inferior. Film photographers also get to experience the anticipation of waiting for their photos to be developed.
So the article begins and says, those of you who are into music, meaning those of you who enjoy music, are probably aware that vinyl records have made a big return in recent years.
A big return? Did they ever go away?
Well, for some people they did, yes. But I think for some musicians, I still remember there being vinyl record shops where people would go in and buy some and trade them. But
I was in one an hour ago.
Yeah, for a lot of casual music fans, they went from, vinyl, cassettes, CDs, MP3s, streaming. But vinyl is kind of coming back.
Yes.
But what is vinyl? It's a special kind of plastic. It's used for a number of other things, but when we think of it here, we think of those black discs, those black circles that are used for recording sound and then listening to that sound.
There you go. People can call them records, they can call them vinyl records. I've even heard people using this word, vinyls.
Yeah.
I bought a vinyl today. I would call it a record, but yeah. And it's different from CDs. It's different, of course, from an MP3, MP4, different from cassette tapes like they had in the 80s. So that's kind of an old technology that's kind of come back. It's not necessary. You can still go to Spotify or buy your music digitally on iTunes, but people like the old technology, and it's kind of fun to, explore that and play with it. So, in fact, it says in 2021, more vinyl albums than CDs were sold in the US for the first time in 30 years. Partly that's because some people think that vinyl albums or records sound better than CDs and digital music, but also just because this old technology is hot again. It's popular again.
Whereas CDs really have kind of, their day is over and gone.
I guess so. I mean, you can still find them, but yes, it's not as cool, and it's not as cool as vinyl, and it's not as convenient as digital. So it's kind of lost in the middle there. But maybe in 20 years, CDs will be popular again. Who knows?
I doubt it. But as Mike mentioned, people do like the sound of vinyl. The article says this too. Many people feel the warm sound that vinyl produces is superior to the digital sound of CDs and MP3s. Now, when we talk about something being superior, we mean better than. Its quality is better, its value for money is better, whatever qualities it has, they are higher in comparison to another thing. We could also use this word as a noun, talk about my superior. That could mean somebody who's really better than you at something, but usually means a boss, a manager, somebody higher up in a company than you. But as an adjective, it simply means better than. For example, Daphne always buys this kind of shampoo because she feels it is superior to the other brands. She just thinks it's better. So people think of vinyl music that's played on vinyl records as being superior to music that comes through a digital format.
That's right. Let's talk about this word digital. All right, when we say digital, basically we mean something that a computer can use and understand. All right, if I write something out by hand, I can't then put it in my computer and the computer will be able to read my pen and paper handwriting. No, but if I type it into a computer, what I see on the screen, that gets turned into a digital signal that then I can send in an email, I can print on a piece of paper, I can save on a USB drive or something like that. It's not a piece of paper, it's not a song, it's not a picture on a piece of paper, it's not a song on a vinyl record or something. It's been turned into computerized information, ones and zeros. It's able to be used, saved, memorized, transferred, and read on a computer because it is digital. For example, digital novels that we can read on a tablet or computer are usually just called ebooks, although of course there's absolutely no paper involved in this type of book.
So yeah, people are listening to vinyl records again. They think the sound is kind of warmer, maybe more real in a sort of way, more natural sounding. And the article says another old technology that has been making a return or coming back into fashion, people are doing it again, is film photography. Again, not digital cameras, but actual film.
That's right. And again, with the return of older style film photography, and again, it's the analog warmth that's part of the reason. And here we have this word analog, and many times analog and digital are kind of opposites. Digital is using microchips and computer technology. Analog is using older technology from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, before we started to use computers in almost all of the machines that we have. When it's an older technology, we can say analog. Now I can read this very long description. It says analog is relating to a mechanism or device that uses information from continuously variable physical quantities, like sound or pictures stored on a tape, film, etc., not as digital symbols. So basically, it's pre-computer, before computer technology.
So what is this film photography? I'm sure you guys know what it is, but let's look into this idea with a bit more detail. In film photography, a film roll, which is those little things you put in the camera, of usually 24 or 36 exposures is loaded into the camera. Exposure is the term that's used in photography here for the amount of film that is used for taking one photograph. In other words, if you have a film with 24 exposures, you can take 24 pictures on your camera before you take the old film out and put a new one in. And it tends to be either 24 or 36.
That's right. And of course, when you use that roll of film, when you shoot off those 24 or 36 pictures or exposures, you have to take the film out because you've used it up and load a new roll of film into your camera. To load something is basically to put something into a place in a piece of equipment so that that piece of equipment is ready to use. This is something probably that can be used up by the machine you're using. You can get a replacement, you can put it in, and now you are back in action. A lot of the time we think of police officers or soldiers loading their guns. They put the bullets in the gun, get the gun ready to go. If you're putting things inside a machine, like for example, dirty laundry, you load the machine with your dirty laundry and some soap, and then you press start and now it will go. If you don't load your washing machine, you'll just waste a bunch of water and you won't actually wash anything. And, you know, in other ways, you could talk about loading up your bag with everything you need before you go to school or something like that. You're putting things in something so that that thing that you're loading is now ready to do its job. For example, after she got back from her trip, Irene loaded all her dirty laundry into the washing machine. She had like 10 days of dirty socks. And actually, one bunch of laundry, we can often call that a load.
Yep.
I've got 2 loads of laundry because I was on holiday for 2 weeks or something like that.
So we've got this camera, we've got the roll of film goes into the camera, it's loaded in there. We then see once the roll is finished, meaning you've taken the 24, 36 pictures, it must be processed to see the images.
Right.
Yeah, it's different from digital camera. You take it and you see the photo straight away. In the old days of film, you might not get to see them for a couple of weeks because they need to be processed. So this word, it can be pronounced process or process, both are fine. And it means to do a particular process, a step-by-step of different things, often to turn one thing into another thing or to create that thing. More specifically here, it means to make photographs from film by treating it with chemicals. Once the film has got these pictures on them, you need to do different things, use chemicals, and they will end up on particular types of special paper, film paper, so you get the photographs afterwards. You could process other things. You would need to process raw materials to turn them into chairs or tables. You process food. You take them all, you do things to it, and you end up with some kind of meal or ready meal or hamburger patty, something like that. It's just a step of different things to turn one thing into another. Here's an example sentence. Once the film is processed, we will be able to start editing it. So you have to treat the film with these special chemicals in a dark room usually in order to get your images.
That's right. An image is basically a picture, a photograph, something like that that we can look at and we can see a thing that has been drawn, that has been painted, that has been captured with a camera. It's different from print or text, which is writing. So often if you have a book, books often might, like a school book for example, they might often have images in them, pictures that help explain an idea, and also writing or text. So if we have a combination of those things, we have something to read and something to look at, but the image, whether it's just a simple drawing, a painting, or a photograph, is something you can look at and see what the artist or photographer is trying to show you. For example, can you find the artist's hidden image in the painting? So here's an image, a painting, but there's an image or another image, another picture or drawing of the artist maybe hidden in the clouds or something like that.
Cool, I like those.
Mysterious.
So the article says traditionally images were printed. So you would get these little photographs when you went to the wherever you got it
special paper
processed. But these days, images can be made into a convenient digital file.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, instead of going to pick up your photographs and then looking at them, they can actually go, all right, give me your email address or give me a USB or whatever, and we'll send you the digital versions of these photos.
Okay, and actually that's a lot like vinyl records. When you buy vinyl records today, you'll get the actual music on the record, and you often get a little code where you can download the same songs but put it into your phone right away. So you can get both the physical one that you hold on to, either a record or an actual picture on paper, and you also get the digital version. You get analog and digital. Back to the article. Film photos have a unique style that can't easily be copied with digital technology. In the same way that some people might say, oh, the vinyl record just sounds better than the MP3, some other people who are into photography might say, oh, but the pictures, the colors, the way you can see the picture when you take it with an old-style film camera is so much better than what your phone can give you or what a digital camera can give you. That's interesting.
Yeah, fair enough. And there is one reason for this kind of thing. It says whenever a photographer chooses a different film type, the photos will look different.
Sure.
So, yeah, there's not just one type of film that you put into your camera and you get the same photo. By getting a different kind of film, you get a completely different kind of effect from it.
And of course, on the camera, you can also choose how fast the camera takes the picture. And the exposure depth, all sorts of things that you can change and manipulate. Much more complicated than using filters like you do on a digital camera or your phone, but it gives you many more options.
So that sentence contains today's language in focus, so let's take a moment to look at it. So today we're looking at adverbs like whenever, wherever, however, whatever, whoever. These adverbs show that something is free from limits or restrictions. So when we use whenever, we mean at any time. We're saying it doesn't matter when. The same idea for whatever. It doesn't matter what. Whoever, it doesn't matter who. Wherever, it doesn't matter where. And however, it doesn't matter how. For example, you might hear somebody say, whatever you do, don't wake the baby. So do whatever you like, it doesn't matter. Just try to be quiet. Or wherever I go, I'll always remember my life in Taiwan. It doesn't matter if I return to England one day, go and live somewhere else, I will never forget the time I spent here. So you did mention digital filters there.
Yeah, absolutely. And as everyone knows, anyone who's used Instagram or Snapchat or just a camera on a phone, there are digital filters that try to copy the film look, but these are usually inferior. Absolutely. You can take your picture that you took on a normal sunny day, and by using filters, you can make it black and white. You can make it sort of brown and white like you're using old film. You can make it have a beautiful sunset by putting an orange or yellow filter on it. But these are usually inferior. I used to have a filter set with my old camera, and I think it just looked better than the filters that I've seen on a phone because there was more control. Now, what is a filter? A filter is basically, in this case, a program that changes a digital photo in some way. It might add more color to it. It might add less color to it, like you're taking it on a gray or a foggy day. Or, of course, there are those funny filters you might use when you're FaceTiming with someone, where your camera now puts a hat on you or turns your face into a cat or turns your face into a vampire with dripping teeth or something. But on the old photo, on the old cameras, basically you had the camera, you had a lens, you would screw something on and basically put pieces of colored glass in front of the lens, and that would give you the sunset, or that would give you the blue sky to make your gray sky even more blue. And in some ways, it seems that the colors were kind of superior than what the digital filters give you just automatically on your picture.
Right, so we described these digital ones as being inferior. We looked at superior before, meaning better than. Inferior means worse than, not as good as. For example, I think these rain boots are inferior to the ones I had before. The first time I wore them, my feet got wet.
Ooh, definitely not as good.
So are there any other advantages to using film?
Well, the article says film photographers also get to experience the anticipation of waiting for their photos to be developed. Yes, you don't get the instant reaction or the instant gratification of take the picture, see the picture, take another picture, see the different picture. You have to wait sometimes days, sometimes a week to get that film back, to get the pictures back from the Photoshop, from the lab where they process the films. So you get to experience this anticipation, the feeling of waiting. And I remember that. You would go, you'd pay your money, and then even as you're walking out the door, you're like looking at the pictures and seeing how they came out. So you did have to wait, but it was kind of more exciting to see the finished product of your photos. When we say get to and then a phrasal verb, in that case, get to experience, you are able to do something or able to enjoy something, all right? Generally, we would talk about things we're looking forward to, things that are coming up in the future. On the weekend, I'll get to see my grandmother. I haven't seen her in a year. And then we'll both get to see the new Marvel movie or something that's coming up that you're going to enjoy.
Yeah, so it's this sense of anticipation that people like. The excitement of eagerly awaiting something that's about to happen. And there is something cool about it, like, oh, I've looked forward to this thing. It's nearly here. It's like when you go to bed on Christmas Eve, you know tomorrow's Christmas Day. You know you're going to get presents, so you're full of anticipation. You just like, oh, I'm so excited to see what's going to be there tomorrow when I wake up. That is anticipation.
That's right. And there might be a few days or even a week or two of anticipation before the film is developed. When we develop film, in this case, we're basically using the film that has been shot on a kind of a chemical, a plastic film, and then we use other chemicals to turn that into an image that can be printed on paper or, of course, now can be stored in a computer. But it is a chemical process. You actually have to treat the film using a few different chemicals, and then you let it dry, and then the chemicals slowly, the film, the picture, I should say, will slowly come out. Something, of course, you don't have to do with digital cameras because it's all done with computers.
Okay, we're going to talk a bit more about this idea of film photography coming back in tomorrow's class. Right now, though, it's time to go for our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So today's question, what other kinds of old technology are making a return?
Interesting. I think a lot of these things are making a return, partly just because it's interesting and fun. I'm not sure we're going to lose the new technology because everyone will go back to the old one. But in the same way that people kind of like the old cameras and the old vinyl records, even though it might be slightly less convenient, I've seen a lot of people online and other places talking about having and collecting typewriters.
Okay.
Old-fashioned typewriters where you actually push something and a lever hits a piece of paper, prints out a letter. So this is not some kind of electronic computer, certainly not a laptop or a computer. You're typing on paper. I know the film star, the movie star Tom Hanks, he has a big collection of old typewriters that he loves to write letters on to fans. And I really think it's just a way for people to collect them, to learn about them, to appreciate them. And it's almost like a little bit of a time machine to back when, newspaper writers and movie writers, book writers would all use this very simple paper and ink type of technology.
I think those what we call dumb phones or non-smart phones.
Okay. Just allows you to call.
Yeah,
basically.
I think they're making a little bit of a revival because I think people are like, okay, there is now too much social media, too much internet.
Right.
I need a way to switch off, but people still need to call me in emergencies. So I think people are thinking, well, let's not just get rid of all those old Nokias and stuff like that just yet. It might be nice to have one so I can go away for the weekend, forget about Facebook and Instagram, but I've still got a phone in case there's an emergency. So there's that. Well, join us again tomorrow for part 2 of our article about film photography. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Vocabulary Review.
Superior. Superior. These vegetables are superior to the ones you find in supermarkets because we grow them ourselves without chemicals. Digital. Most people use digital cameras today, but some still prefer traditional ones. Load. Jack loaded his new game into his PlayStation and sat down to play with his friends. Process. Benny enjoys taking photos with his old camera and then processing them at home. Image. I just bought a new camera. It can produce clearer images than my old one. Inferior. This is an inferior hamburger to the one we got last year. That one tasted much better.
智慧小补帖
Vinyl. Analog. Exposure. Filter. Anticipation.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net